All
right, looks like we're live now. Welcome to the channel. This is Wes as normal, and today is my first spoiler comic review on the channel. And with me is Real Comic Stacks. What's going on, man?
Hey, man, thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah, so Stacks is actually the first YouTuber that reached out to me when my channel started. And we've been trying to do an event together for quite a while, but it's finally happened. So it's only took like 3.5 months.
Yeah, life, right?
Yeah, being on, in different parts of the world and all that stuff, and we both have kids and everything, so it can, it can be difficult to schedule. But I'm really glad to have you on here. I know you're a huge MCU fan. I believe your channel is basically Marvel comics and MCU movies, correct?
Correct. Yeah. And been in the MCU back before there was an MCU. Watching the Marvel movies. Nicolas Cage as Ghost Rider, even the horrible ones, and embracing them for what they were. So for the MCU to come along was a blessing, and for the last 11 years have been, deep into it and loved every minute of it. So
yes, it's a pretty crazy ride. I don't think they quite exactly had this in mind when they started. Obviously, there was something in mind because when the Incredible Hulk came out, Tony Stark showed up in the end credit scene, and basically kicked off the MCU. And then all of a sudden, Samuel L. Jackson was in all the films, and they were starting to connect and everything. And it all culminated in the Avengers. And now everybody wants the connected movie universe. But it doesn't seem to have worked out for everyone else. But it certainly Marvel has perfected it to a degree. So we both went and saw Endgame already. We saw it before opening weekend. We saw it on like the Wednesday night showings. So what are your overall thoughts on it?
Overall, I didn't think it was a bad movie. I did enjoy it. I enjoyed a lot of the story arcs that ended. I don't think this movie's without issue though. I do think the Russo brothers on the way out were doing their high five on some of their social issues they wanted to address. The MCU, I think, has been successful because it hasn't delved into a lot of that stuff. And I thought Captain Marvel was overplayed. If you look at the critical scenes that, and of course, going right into spoilers here. But
yes, this is absolutely a spoiler review.
You look at the critical points in the movie, and if Captain Marvel's not there for saving Tony at the very beginning, or coming in at the end once the Sanctuary 2s opened fire on basically the entire battlefield, it's a different movie, and I feel like she should have played a part, but I think it was even there overplayed a little bit, especially with the Tony Stark piece.
Yeah, I'll agree with you to a degree on that one. I think they kept her to a minimum. She maybe has 10 or 15 minutes screen time tops.
Yeah.
But she, absolutely, she saves Tony Stark's life, brings him back to Earth. She's the reason that the heroes feel emboldened enough to go and find Thanos and confront him because of her presence. And then, she shows up at the end like a fucking missile. It's like blowing stuff up for a couple minutes.
I will say that opening scene, like once she convinced him to go ahead and go forward with it, that like changed my whole aspect of where I thought this movie was going.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was taken aback. I was like, okay, well, that's not how I saw this happening. And I kept saying previously in all my predictions and everything that this was going to be like a Back to the Future / Italian Job movie. Was the way I kept summing it up. And basically that ended up being the second act of the movie.
Yeah.
That Italian Job feel to it with the separate missions. And
I kind of equated it to Ocean's 12.
Yeah.
Because of the funny business, the hoo-ha. So my thoughts were I thought it was good. It certainly has some problems. And we're going to get into those specifically, but for a movie that was the end game of the MCU of the 21, I believe, movies prior, it plays service to all the movies before it. It closed up so many story arcs and relationships, and it does them very well. And the last act is mind blowing.
Yeah.
Like that was it's definitely got my blood pumping. So I think it was for what it wanted to achieve. I think it was very effective. Now, was it a great movie? Well, I'll disagree with that. On its own, I don't think it would stand up, but I don't think it's meant to. So so in that respects, I think it's pretty good. So I have some notes here, and I'm gonna kind of go through it a certain way. So basically, Endgame is a 3-part movie. The very beginning wraps up Infinity War. The remaining survivors go and confront Thanos. They kill him. He's destroyed the stones, and there's no way to save their friends. And then there's the fallout from that when they realize half the world is gone and they're not coming back. After that, they realize that they can go back, and they go into what's called the time heist portion of the movie, where they break into little teams and they start jumping through time to go and steal the stones and bring them back to current times. And then there's a climactic battle at the end with Thanos again and his army. What did you think about the story structure? Did you like it? Obviously, you said it wasn't what you expected.
Well, a lot of it was. I mean, the missions part, the time travel part, I did expect that. But the story structure I thought was actually really, really good. You get that first hit on Thanos, he's taken out, and then we jump 5 years into the future, and everybody's still dealing with the fallout and the loss and everything. And then the introduction of a chance, a hope, this slim hope that Ant-Man brings when he shows up. The Tony and Cap conflict not being resolved right away, that was kind of a surprise. Tony Stark, honestly, at that point when he gets back and he's all emaciated looking and looking like he needs a sandwich. I mean, he was full blown jerk Tony Stark at that point.
Yeah, and he's insane.
And but to him accidentally stumble across time travel, basically, just that I was hoping they were going to pull some elements of Ant-Man and the Wasp, where the people that were somehow in the because he never get explained that these people were actually dead. There wasn't some quantum realm thing. It wasn't any of that. They were dead.
Yes.
So I was expecting a Doctor Strange somehow to be implanting those like she did. What was her name? Janet Van Dyne in Ant-Man and the Wasp. Yeah, where she was putting the impressions on Scott Lang's mind in Ant-Man and the Wasp. I was thinking there was going to be something that tied to that, but there wasn't. And it flows so well. That last scene though was so epic. I said this on one of my reviews. I felt like that was a 2-page spread in a comic book. I felt when both armies laid out, I felt you were looking at something that you could sit there and look at for 15 minutes and just go into the art of it with the Doctor Strange tunnel showing up and I was the Thanos' army rolling up. It was epic. I mean, I love that scene right there. But
yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was like I said, it'll make the hair on your neck stand up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because most people, if you've watched all the movies, you're talking maybe 45, maybe 50 hours of investment to get to this point, and they really do pay it off at the end, like perfectly.
Yes. Yeah, I thought there were some good callbacks to the comic books and definitely to the MCU throughout. Like you mentioned, it was where they did right by all of this, starting with Infinity War, is they didn't take time to get you caught up. They assumed that you were an adult and you knew the storyline going into it. And in Endgame, there was no catch up. It was get on in 3 hours of go. It did lull a little bit there. I mean, I went cross-eyed when they started talking about time travel, because time travel in my mind is Back to the Future. That's the way it works. Your quantum physics be darned. I don't care. That's how it works. Because Marty McFly said so. But
so that's one of the things that I think where the movie suffers is because there's so many things they have to pay off. There's not a whole lot of this needs to make sense. And it's a whole lot of let's get through this so we can get to the part where they're talking or where they're, you know what I mean, for that payoff that people are waiting for. Mm-hmm. So it zooms through a lot, and it is pretty fast paced. Although there is some parts in the middle that I didn't think were perfect. So sounds like you like the narrative structure more than I did. I didn't personally like the beginning, the way that they almost said, well, you know, Infinity War is over, you know, the big bad's dead. Let's get into the next story. I wish it was a direct continuation because that doesn't feel like it was. You know what I'm saying?
It was definitely jerky at the beginning.
Yeah, it was. But I understand why they did it. It ended up being effective. It's just, I think the villain Thanos that killed half the world probably deserved to have a better death. But
absolutely, just MCU Thanos versus the differences between MCU Thanos and comic book Thanos is still he's way underpowered. And
he's also. I mean, he's not portrayed as insane. He's kind of portrayed as a nice, soft-spoken guy that makes him like you almost get the well, I don't say almost. I get the feeling that the directors think that like that's actually a pretty good idea because they make him extremely sympathetic. And as far as I'm concerned, he's the protagonist of Infinity War. Like he's never portrayed as evil or no one ever calls him out on his bullshit. I think Doctor Strange does one time. And other than that, no one ever says, you know, what you want to do is evil, what you want to do is wrong. I have to stop you because you're a murderous psychopath, you know. So that's like one of the
actually, did you catch the line where Captain America is coming in to talk to Black Widow and he's actually justifying that, half the population's gone, but there's whales in the bay. And because there's less ships and less traffic. And it's like, all right, Cap.
The Earth is healing itself. I got that part.
That's like okay, but half those people are dead though. That's cool. Mm-hmm. So it. I had an argument a while back, a little Twitter beef with somebody it was an article I think on Screen Rant where they finally realized that Thanos was the bad dude because he was mean to his daughters. It wasn't because he wiped out half of the population of the universe. Instead, it was he was mean to his daughters, and therefore he's problematic. Like,
he made them almost fight to the death for his like affection.
Yeah.
So in that respect, he is insane, but never portray his plan as insane. By the way, so I did think in Infinity Wars that was a wasted opportunity to build the villain up better. But so you know, we like the narrative structure. You like it a little bit more than I do.
Yeah.
So I thought it was effective once, you know, Thanos is dispatched in the very beginning of the film. We see the fallout. And most of the surviving characters are greatly affected by Infinity Wars and half the population you know, being wiped out. It's kind of weird because Tony is somewhat positively affected. He's like found peace in like a secluded life as a father and seems happier than he has been in the other MCU movies. Whereas Captain America's like riddled with guilt. He's like leading a survivors group of trying to get help people get on with their lives after the Thanos snap. Black Widow's managing what's left of S.H.I.E.L.D. and she's like hanging on by a thread. You know, she's losing it, barely, you know, keeping things afloat. And then Hawkeye, you know, after he lost his wife and children, like he basically goes insane and he's like looking for retribution by becoming a world traveling vigilante, which I thought was the best part of the whole movie, to be honest. which those are all.
Hawkeye's storyline was epic.
Yeah, that was. We'll get into what I wish they had done with him, but so I thought all those were done excellently. I was like, man, this all feels very real. These aren't the same characters as what happened. And the effects should have been huge. They lost friends, they all lost family, everyone lost something. But there's two characters that were changed that I have bigger problems with. They kind of use Hulk and Thor for comedic effects. Thor has ceased being I'll go back to Tony's words, the Point Break style adrenaline junkie, and now he's the dude from The Big Lebowski, and he's just this fat, overweight dumbass. And then Bruce Banner, he and Hulk have reconciled and learned to live with each other. So now Bruce has his intelligence, but he also has the Hulk's physical gifts, which I think probably should have been the standout feature of the movie, probably the standout character. But he's all doing selfies and stuff, and it just felt so out of character. So I love what they did with the other. Yeah, Amadeus Cho.
It felt like Amadeus Bro. It felt or Cho, Amadeus Cho. I didn't like it either on that. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
So yeah, like I said, I really like what they did with the other characters, especially Hawkeye and Tony. But I did not like the treatment of Hulk or Thor, and Thor especially. I know you had some problems. You want to spell out what your issues specifically were with Thor and his treatment? You there, Stacks?
Yep, sorry, I hit the mute button. My problem with Thor was the complete lack of leadership. How he just abandoned the mantle of leadership in all of this. That he had people who had been through what he had been through. His people they'd been hit by Hela, had lost a ton of people there. They had Thanos show up on that ship, kill half of them, and then they suffered the snap as well. So their population has absolutely been decimated, down from this huge population down to mere thousands, and he's going to run and hide in a room with his buddies and play video games and drink himself into a stupor. That to me, it set back Thor. All the gains you got through Thor Ragnarok, all the everything you thought this character was headed down, they've turned him into, like you said, the Big Lebowski, and I can't justify going forward this character being a likable one, because he seriously abandoned his people in a time of need. And I was talking on one of my videos about it, and the guy in the comments was like, "Hey, it was a good movie. You just need to." I was like, "No, this isn't just a movie. This has been a 11-year run where Thor was in it from near the very beginning. To see his story arc just bottom out in the trash bin after that arrival in Wakanda and that the emotion that he brought to that scene. I mean, I get it. He was broke. But let him be broke behind the curtain. Let him put on a good face and then go into the room and break down. They should have done something different with it. Thor was the biggest disappointment in this movie for me, by far. Him running around jiggling with no shirt on was, my goodness. It was big time disappointing.
I had a very similar. I didn't like that they decided that Thor needed to be the comedic sidekick guy.
No, absolutely. Him just giving up the mantle of leadership is that conversation he had with Frida, which I always pronounce that wrong.
Is
Freya. Basically Freya, yeah. Not being not being what people expect you to be, which you could take that two ways. One is you could do I'm not going to lead the way Odin led. I'm not going to do it the way my father did. But he's still going to lead. or you could take it as a free pass to go do whatever I want because everybody's expectations of me are unfair. And that's the way he went. And now he's going to go stumble through the galaxy with the Guardians of the Galaxy. And if I have to watch a 2.5 hour movie of the banter between him and Star-Lord, I'm just going to, dump my popcorn out on the floor and walk away because, I mean, it's just uncomfortable and sad. I mean, that I'm in charge. No, you're really in charge. No, I'm in charge. We know who's in charge. It's just...
It's funny that you mentioned the Guardians. So, in my mind, the MCU took a... I think we got half stacks. Or is that the baby?
Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries, man.
It is. She's telling me she has to go to the restroom. So,
awesome. So in my mind, the MCU took a decided nosedive in quality after Guardians of the Galaxy because of the humor that was introduced through that film. It became what I call MCU toddler humor. It's the lowest common denominator. It's their jokes that are just they're just gags more than actual real jokes. So I think it's interesting that Thor becoming a gag himself in Endgame ends up being with the Guardians of the Galaxy. And James Gunn, the writer that I think ended up, he didn't tank the MCU. The MCU is very successful. It's the most successful film franchise of all time. But he certainly changed what an MCU movie was from that point on. Like the humor that was introduced to the Guardians of the Galaxy. And obviously they thought it was successful. It ended up not only changing the MCU, but you also see it in The Last Jedi, the opening scene with Hux on the bridge, and I can't even remember the character's name anymore. I hate that movie so much. But where he's doing the comms,
Poe Dameron.
Yeah, Poe Dameron. He's doing the comms check, and I was like, "Oh God, the MCU humor is in the Star Wars now." So, I love the MCU, but I hate the humor now. Ever since Guardians of the Galaxy, I think that's one of the big downward spirals. Did you notice that yourself?
I did. It's gotten old, and honestly, with the Guardians of the Galaxy, I thought it was fine within that franchise. Mm-hmm. If you want something that is that kind of comedy, that's fine. But because it made money, they immediately said, "Hey, we need to do this everywhere."
Yeah,
throughout the entire franchise, and that's the Thor franchise was a more serious franchise. I mean, I enjoyed Ragnarok, but sorry.
No, it's no worries, mate.
Kid's in a diaper right now, so I enjoyed Ragnarok, but it was a hard shift. The story I thought itself was good. The loss of Asgard, Hela, all that stuff. But I could have done without some of the humor in it. You could have dialed it back because it was a very serious, situation. But that's not the way we deal with the MCU anymore. And the Spider-Man in my top, whatever, should be higher. I love Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. But Spider-Man Homecoming, the Ting and Angst part of it overwhelms the responsibility part of it. There's not a balance, in my opinion.
Yeah.
At this point, so and I think that feeds off of that same humor. Just as long as people are laughing in the theaters, they're going to come back. Kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So basically the whole middle portion, when the reason I compare it to Ocean's 12. Because it is a caper, and they're all doing their own things, but it's all gags.
Yeah,
it's just gag. But there are 3 moments. So going into this film, my prediction was Captain America would be dead, Iron Man would be dead, and Thor would be dead. Those were the 3 characters I thought wouldn't make it through. So when we get to the middle part and they start doing the time jumps, at one point, Tony goes back in time and runs into his father before Tony is born. And he has a conversation with his father about what it's like to be an expectant dad. which he never got to have with himself. So I thought, okay, that's some character closure. My my idea that I at that point I knew Tony was gone. I was like, he's not making it through this movie. And then Thor runs into his mother, who was tragically taken away from him early in the Thor: The Dark World film, and he has a conversation. So I kind of figured he was gone too, but then at one point Cap sees Peggy Carter kind of walk by, and he has an opportunity to go see her one last time and let her know that he loves her, and say what all the things he didn't get to say in the first Captain America movie. And he didn't do it. At that point, I was pretty certain Captain America wasn't going to die. Did you have that same feeling when you saw that in the theater, Stax?
On the Tony Stark one, absolutely. I knew at that point Tony's not making it through this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's one I suspected, but I was kind of back and forth that it was going to be one, either him or Cap. And then with Thor, I just wasn't convinced that that Thor was going to die in this one. I thought he was probably going to make it through, just because, and that's mostly just because of not movie stuff. Just hearing that there's a possibility of a Thor 4 and him being incorporated in other movies going forward, and they have to have that bridge other than Captain Marvel into the cosmic MCU. So I could see, I saw him in that role, and that's not really related to the movie, but I just didn't see them getting rid of the character. But as far as Cap, I knew. I kind of still thought he was. I thought somehow. I just didn't think Cap was going to make it. Honestly, I thought once he picked up Mjolnir in that epic scene, which was my one hands up in the air scene. Once that happened, I thought it was going to go down. He was going to be just wailing on Thanos, and there was just going to be that moment where that blade just went right through him, and that was going to be it. And it was going to be the moment where that drove Tony to make the big sacrifice with the gauntlet once he got it. I thought Cap laying everything down would push him to do the same thing, but that's obviously not what happened. But so I did think Cap was going to die still at that point, but I thought they handled it really well.
They did, yeah. Like I said, once he saw Carter, but he didn't go say anything to her, I looked over my wife. I was like, "Oh, Cap's making it." And she goes, "You think?" I was like, "Yeah. If he was gonna die, he would have had his moment. He finally would have got to say, 'I love you' one last time." Yeah. But I didn't realize the wheels were spinning in his head, and he was gonna go back in time and live his life with her. So I really like that part.
I actually made that prediction a while back in a video, and I pushed it off to the side and forgot about it. I was like, he's gonna get left behind somehow, and then you're gonna see him as an old man later come back. I didn't think he'd be 78 years old or whatever he was, 80-year-old man. But I thought it would be the slowed aging process, and we'd get that. I thought the MCU would maybe bring him back in about 10 or 15 years, and that Secret Avengers storyline where he's older but still Cap. So but I thought they handled it really well. I really did. I do think they paid good homage to him. The Cap versus Cap scene was incredible. The one him thinking it was Loki.
It made complete sense.
They did it so well, and then. But I got into thinking about craziness about the timeline stuff but I'll hold off on that.
So, Tony doesn't make it.
Right.
Captain America ends up going back in time, finding Peggy Carter, and they live their life out together. Gamora doesn't make it. Vision doesn't come back. Those are the four big ones, right? Am I missing one?
Well, Black Widow.
Yes, Black Widow also.
Gamora does make it because she came from the past. Yeah, it's Gamora, but not Gamora.
Yeah, That one's a fuzzy one. So with Captain America, like I said, he goes back in time. He apparently lives his life out, and he gets the family life that he always wanted. And then at the very end, he gives the shield to Sam, the Falcon.
Wilson.
Yeah, Sam Wilson, the Falcon. What did you think of that? Because I thought I always thought it was going to be the Winter Soldier, because the Falcon is a hero in his own right. He didn't need the shield to be a hero, whereas the Winter Soldier was an assassin, and the shield and the mantle of Captain America would have been a full redemption for his character and a full realization by the other heroes that you are redeemed and you're no longer a threat. What are your thoughts?
I absolutely couldn't agree with that more. I love Sam Wilson. I love what they've done with the Falcon throughout the MCU. He's been that, I'm there with Cap. I'm going to do what's right. He's suffered with him. He's done all the hard things, and it made more. And I understand why they gave it to him, but it does make more sense that they gave it to the Winter Soldier because of his past, because of everything that's happened around it. Like exactly what you said. He was an assassin. And essentially he was a victim of the Russians in World War II, and he had that done to him. He had his humanity stripped away from him, and it would have been great closure or great moving forward for the Winter Soldier character with the shield to don the Captain America, label. And I wish they would have done exactly what you said. And I'm a huge Captain America homer, and so I don't. It's either way is comic lore, but I would have preferred Winter Soldier because it would have given him that mantle and that redemption story arc for that character.
Also, so we're getting into some of the bigger spoilers. So in between Infinity War and Endgame, there's two films. There's Ant-Man and the Wasp, which was like a prequel, and everyone was like, "This makes no sense that it's here," but it completely ties into the movie. And then there was Captain Marvel, which was an introduction of Captain Marvel to be in the movie. We already talked about her. She has minimal screen time, but she does make a big impact. Me personally, after seeing this film, what I would have loved is a Ronin movie to bridge Infinity War to Endgame, and to show the cold open like they do in Endgame of Clint Barton with his family. They disappear. He loses it, and he goes on he turns into Ronin, and we see what the effects of the aftermath of Infinity War and the Thanos snap are. But you don't tell him why he's lost it and why he has no hope anymore. But you know what I mean? I think it would have been the perfect bridge between the two movies. I just feel like it's a waste opportunity. What do you think about that?
I think it would have been really hard to do a Ronin movie the way they portrayed the character in PG-13. I think that character, as dark as he was, and they kind of hinted to it when Rhodey was talking to Black Widow, talked about the things he's done there in, I think it was Mexico. Things just slaughtering people. I think keeping that to PG-13 would have been difficult. And I don't know how much it would have just been him tracking. I think maybe a Black Widow movie beforehand would have been better, showing that relationship and building the relationship between Natasha and Clint, and that would have made the scene there on the Soulstone Mountain, and it would have made that even more intense if you'd had more of their background.
Yeah, so that's one of the scenes that didn't really work for me. I was like,
yeah,
do these idiots realize if they both died, like no one gets the stone?
yeah, it's. So. I was sitting there. Yeah, I agree. It was, flip a coin or something. But if you both die, nobody gets it. The end.
Obviously, Clint was the choice to come back. Because he has you have wife and children that they want to come back to their father, and not that there's anything wrong with not having that, but it would seem like the logical choice from a superhero's perspective that you bring the man back to his family.
Well, the fact that they knew that they knew that Gamora didn't come back, but they didn't know why was interesting, and nobody thought. I mean, what do you do though? It's not like you could take something. Hey, let's take one of the pets with us and toss it off. I mean, I don't.
It has to be something you love. I guess if it's a dog, maybe.
Here you go. Later, Pooch. No, I don't know how you really how you get around that. But I agree. It should have been Black Widow. Like he does have the family to come back to. Absolutely. He should have been able to look her in the eye and said thank you.
Yeah. And probably would have meant more than them fighting on the side of the mountain over who was gonna die.
I mean, could you imagine him sitting there looking at her and saying thank you and having to give her a push, basically?
Well,
that would have been
one of his children after her.
Yeah,
it's not like it's already been established to a point that obviously they're very important. So we're coming up, maybe like 10-15 minutes left on the review. We have to talk about the last act, like in detail.
Yes.
There's so much fan service in that last, what do you think it is, 40 minutes? It's amazing, when they're finally there and you're like, okay, well, he did the snap. They should all be alive. How are they going to get here? And that's all I could think. I was like, how the hell are they all going to get here? And all of a sudden you see the little Doctor Strange portals start showing up in the sky. And all of a sudden, all the characters come back. And they all get their entrance. And now it's Thanos' full army versus all of Earth's mightiest heroes with the Guardians and Captain Marvel, your cosmic heroes. And it was amazing.
Oh man! Oh yes. I mean, like I said, it felt like a 2-page spread. It felt like it felt as amazing as it should have, and it was. Was there a lot of fan service in it? Absolutely, but that's. I mean, exactly, and that's the Star Wars franchise should probably take some notes on this. I mean, it was incredible. Them lining up. I seriously could probably pause that part and just stare at it for a while and just start laying into the characters, who's where, and it was really awesome.
So, is there one particular moment that you thought stood out? Because I know the one for me. It was when Tony finally sees Peter Parker, because Tony has no reason to go on this quest. He has his wife. He has a child. He's happy that he's alive, and he's happy to be a father. But he has that picture of Peter Parker, and that is his motivation to risk his life to go back and save everyone else. Because of his guilt. Because of what happened to Peter. So when he finally sees Peter, and he gives him a big hug, like a bro hug or a dad hug, like it got me. I didn't cry, but I had a little stain in my eye.
The Peter Parker scene was awesome, where he's trying to make the stand, holding the gauntlet, and he's just completely overwhelmed. It activates insta kill. I thought that was a good callback to Homecoming. But yeah, that moment with him. Tony Stark wrapping his arms around him, that callback to this isn't a hug, I'm just letting you out the door kind of thing, and Peter saying, "Oh wow, we're really doing this," and it was a good movie, especially as good as the moment was, and as emotional as the moment was with Peter disappearing for Tony. And it was a really good payoff. I really did enjoy that moment. I already mentioned the Cap millionaire scene earlier. That was a little bit before Doctor Strange showed up, but that was
awesome.
that was the big moment for me in this movie that I couldn't. I mean, I just you kept hoping it would happen, and the whole and when Thor's look on his face where he just goes, "I knew it." I mean, I love that. That was great. And then the rest of that scene when Black Panther reaches out and says, let me do it. And I mean, because Black Panther was one of the ones that has wielded the gauntlet in the comic books before. So for him to take off, that was really cool. I mean, that whole last 20 minutes or whatever it was, there was cheering followed by moments where you could hear a pin drop. I mean, it was.
Yeah, I heard people were laughing, they were crying, people were screaming. It was very reminiscent, I think, of the what was it? Was it the Force Awakens when everyone was losing their crap? It was something like that. People were having a very emotional response for that last act specifically. Like people. And when Cap finally picks up Mjolnir, and it's great because everyone's theorized like, oh, he could have picked it up. He was just being nice, and then you finally realize
it budged. It budged.
He could have picked it up the whole time, but he didn't want to hurt Thor's feelings.
Yeah, I always thought it's because he didn't want to have to hear it from Tony Stark the whole time.
So I do have one question: Is Pepper Potts Iron Man now?
She was in the rescue armor suit, so and the rescue armor in the comic books definitely wasn't Mark 85 level armor, but apparently it is, and she was the equivalent of equality on the battlefield. She was doing everything Tony Stark could.
She seemed like the new Iron Man to me. Do you think that's what it's going to be the fallout?
I think she's done with the MCU. Is what I've heard. So I mean, I know it's unmovie related, but I think going forward she will be possibly somehow in charge of Stark Industries, even if they do a retcon or they change the actor out or whatever. I think that they'll do something there with her running Stark Industries, which it'll be who fills in that void of Stark now. Is that going to be eventually the I hoped it was going to be Osborn or Oscorp, but I don't know if that's going to happen or not with the Sony and all that mess.
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine. So one of my theories, which I don't believe anymore, is I thought, well, maybe Shuri will be the next Iron Man. She's pretty conceited, just like Tony. She's a genius, just like Tony. She has access to even better technology than Tony. But I don't think that's going to happen. But she's the only character that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and going forward, do you need an Iron Man? You got you still have War Machine. Rhodey's still running around. You have Captain Marvel now. Spider-Man is going to step up. You're going to see Doctor Strange and Black Panther stepping up more in the.
Do you think Captain Marvel is the de facto replacement for Tony Stark?
I think she's the de facto replacement for Captain America.
Well, that's Falcon. Captain America still exists.
I think the mantle does.
Oh, you think she'll be the military leader?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
I gotcha. I think she's going to be in the moral authority, if you will.
I gotcha. So I think we basically covered everything. Is there anything else in the movie that you wanted to talk about specifically?
No. The only other cringe moment there really was the 11-woman army. The statistical improbability of all the women on the battlefield are going to be the ones that help Captain Marvel get across to the van. That was kind of.
You could tell that was thrown in at the last minute because when it happens, there's nothing preceding it. They say that they're gonna do this thing where they're all the female superheroes get together. The next scene, they're not together anymore. Like you could tell that was just thrown in as fan service. It wasn't a part of the script or the story. I thought it was kind of laughable. But
completely agree.
It was like
that's exactly.
Like
The theater groaned. The whole theater groaned at that point, which it was like 9-1. Well, probably not that bad. About 7-3. Dudes to women in there, and the whole theater, even the women, I think were like, oh. I mean, there was a woman beside me who was just like, gosh. So
I laughed a little bit, but it was like whatever. It's like like I said, it's like 7 seconds, and it amounts to absolutely nothing. They don't do it
exactly. No, they don't make it. the man throws the man throws Stormbreaker and busts the van up. So
I do have one question, because I know you're the MCU historian guy between the two of us, or the Marvel guy. So when Captain Marvel takes the Infinity Stone to the face from Thanos, is she depowered? It seems like she should be.
I don't know. I don't in the I don't know.
Like,
I definitely don't follow Captain Marvel in the comic books that closely.
It just seems like an Infinity Stone to the face, wielded by a godlike, powerful character, should reduce you to like almost nothing.
Well, right, and and it happened to be, it was actually her punch with the Power Stone. She was created from the Space Stone, so I don't know if it's going to be. I don't think they're going to depower her going forward, though. I mean, I think they're going to keep her OP, and I don't. My daughter's diving off the couch now. I think they're going to keep her OP. I think they're going to. It definitely took her out of the fight. I don't think she was there for the rest of that at all. Yeah, I mean.
I think technically she should be dead, but I know that's not going to happen. But
no. I mean,
she got it handed to her pretty quick.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, if you don't mind, what Marvel movies are you looking forward to coming up, or future characters?
I honestly think Marvel, the MCU, and I might be on a little bit of a break. 21 movies with a lot. So moving forward, well, if they ever do a Ronin movie, I'll check that one out, because I'm really interested in the character now. Like, because Hawkeye, I thought had been pretty boring up to this point. I thought they really juiced him up. I thought he had the standout arc. Be completely honest.
Him and Nebula, I thought were really well done in this.
Yeah, Nebula got like all kinds of redemption. Like,
absolutely.
Severely. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about it. Yeah, she probably had the second best story arc of all.
Absolutely. And I was glad, too, because it tied back to the Infinity Gauntlet comic book. Her being the one to actually execute the snap, the reverse snap, if you will.
So I know upcoming you have Black Widow. Seems like it must be a prequel at this point. You got a Guardians of the Galaxy coming up. I think I might be done with Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm tired of that humor. I think it's ruined the MCU. You got the Eternals. Not really interested in that. I know you got Shang. Maybe, because I really like swords and I really like ninjas. I know he's not a ninja, but I know he's a martial artist. So that one holds some interest to me. So maybe the Spider-Man Far From Home.
About Doctor Strange too. Any thoughts on that one?
I didn't like Doctor Strange.
Really? I went back and rewatched it after Infinity War, and it actually while I was sick with the flu a couple weeks ago, and that movie climbed up my list. It was really low. I would say it was bottom quarter going in, and then when I rewatched it, I was like, that was actually really good. So that one's climbed the list for me for whatever reason.
So if they do, whenever they start incorporating the X-Men, I do believe I'll get more interested, because I do like the X-Men a lot.
Yeah.
They started setting up an Avengers versus X-Men film. You couldn't keep me away, to be completely honest.
That and a Doom movie. Fox was working on a Doctor Doom movie before the merger.
Yeah.
If it was done right, I think Doctor Doom could be the next Thanos level villain in the MCU. Yeah, absolutely.
Hero Galactus.
Yes, either one of those would be.
Should be the next big one. Yeah, he's been treated so poorly in those Fantastic Four movies. It's really bad.
Those Fantastic Four movies are really bad. Yeah, and honestly, a lot of that is because they missed the villain. They missed on Victor Von Doom so bad that
I don't think they got what he is.
Yeah,
he's the foil for Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah,
like he's as evil, but evil. Well, he's even more powerful. But
yeah, and they've got it set up in the MCU right now where after Sokovia, that Latveria could just come in and start doing like recovery operations, UN stuff, and be stealing the Doombot or the Ultron bots and turning them into Doom bots. And I mean, they could do a lot with that. So I do hope they get Doom going forward.
So which one are you looking forward to the most? Is it Spider-Man? I know you're the Spidey guy.
Spider-Man, probably followed by Doctor Strange 2, which is pretty far out right now. So
yeah, I think that's like 3 years.
Yeah,
it's like 2.5 or 3.
Eternals doesn't interest me. I'm interested to see where they go with Black Panther 2, because there's potential there, but I don't know that they didn't kind of do too much in the first one to where I don't know where they're going to follow up unless they bring in a Namor and he has have the country at war kind of thing.
That would be fun.
Doom didn't get along with Wakanda either, so there's a possibility there of him being the guy that is messing with that character Doom makes the most sense to unite everybody against. That's the only real way I can see them going forward in the MCU. But they're saying there's going to be a cosmic part of it and a street level part of it, or Earth part of it. Well,
all right. So I have another stream after this one. We're going to talk about Heroes in Crisis. What are your final thoughts on Endgame that you want to say to everybody before we sign off, buddy?
Absolutely a great movie, a great ode to the MCU. If you were an MCU fan, you would be doing yourself a disservice to miss this. Are there some issues with it? Absolutely. It's not a perfect movie, but it's a really fun movie. It's a really it's good. It's worth the hype. It's worth the wait. It's a really good payoff in a lot of ways. And if you haven't, go see it.
Awesome. I agree with those sentiments 100%. Thank you so much for joining us. We've been trying to do this for months now. Yeah. It's great to get you on the channel. Hopefully we'll have half stacks and maybe we can do a 3-man review sometime soon. Where can people check you out if they don't know where you are right now?
I am on. Sorry for the background noise throughout this whole thing. I do apologize for that. I am on YouTube at The Real Comic Stacks, and you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at comic_stacks.
Awesome.
And
I highly recommend you check him out. His videos are a lot of fun. And if you like MCU, if you like Marvel, he's the channel to go to. Great guy, also a former. He's not a former. He's a U.S. military vet, like myself, and I really appreciate your service. Thank you so much, like I said, for joining me. Right after this, I'm going to start another stream. It won't be on here, and we're going to be talking Heroes in Crisis with the regular Comics Aficionados panel. So if you want to join me for that, thank you very much. Salamat po, and I'm out.
Thanks again, Wes. Take care.
You too, buddy.